First things first, I want to say a big thank you for coming on. We've got our main man here, Joe Wood from the Joe Wood property team. So let's kick things off. Tell me a bit about how you got into business. What kind of inspired you in that journey?
It probably all started with my dad, really, because he left one job and then started getting into property investment and went self-employed that way. I hadn't planned to go into business, that's for sure. All I'd planned was go to uni and then go travelling and probably stay doing that forever. But things changed whilst I was stuck in Canada during COVID. Yeah, I wanted a bit more. I was stuck in a restaurant working 8 hours and I was like, that is not something I want to do for the rest of my life.
Sure.
Like 8 hours in a day of someone else's time, like, nah, I'm good. So yeah, I messaged my dad. I was like, how do I go self-employed? What do I do? Whether that was in property or something, I'd kind of lean towards property because I always liked houses and everyone loves looking at houses, don't they?
Sure, absolutely. We've all been guilty of, staying up at like 2, 3 a.m. scrolling through Rightmove. Like, you know what? If I had the money right now, just a bit of blue sky thinking.
So yeah, I messaged Dad. He sent me Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, which if you haven't read it, read it. It will change your life.
Phenomenal.
Changed my life. That kind of honestly altered the whole course of where I wanted to go because I was then like, okay, yeah, I definitely want to be a business owner and having it work for me. And then that just led me down a load of other courses, eventually came back from Canada, worked a summer job, got some money to start up the business, jumped straight in. That's when Keller called me and I was like, I'll be an estate agent.
Can you tell me about that feeling when you got that call from Keller Williams?
Well, it wasn't actually me, it was my dad that got called because
Okay.
they wanted my dad because Dad had been networking in property and whatnot. But
Sure.
Dad was like, nah, I don't want to do that. And then so it suddenly clicked in his head that actually maybe that's something I could do. Where we set up a Zoom call with Claire, who is a fantastic woman, brilliant business owner, and kind of the lead in our section of Keller for this region. And we had a good chat, and I was just like, why not jump in at the deep end and give it a go?
This is something I tell a lot of people about myself, so I'm intrigued to know what it's like for you. Knowing what you know now as a business owner and having been through a lot of the trials and tribulations, jumping over hurdles, knowing what you know now, would you have started your business when you did? Would you have even gone into business knowing what you know now?
It's a good question. I was so naive. I was like, give me 3 months, I'll be making loads of money, I'll be hiring loads of people doing nothing. I was like, yeah, that'll be easy.
Yeah.
It's not quite that easy.
No.
It's definitely a lot more up and downs than that.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think I definitely still do it. Like,
Yeah.
dude, like, I mean, think of today, like I went out, did some training, and then we've just gone and shot a property, had a little walk around the village. Now we're shooting this. Like, you can't do that in a normal job.
You can't do that.
Every day's different when you're running your own business.
Yeah, that's
it. And it's so rewarding. I think that's the biggest thing. Some months you might not make as much money as you want to, but everything you've done and everything you've earned is what you've found from the universe and you've gone out to get it. It's not just like, oh, I'm showing up and I'm going to get paid at the end of the month. It's, I've actually made this money.
So do you feel like money has got a different value now to if you were working like a 9 to 5 back when you were working in that restaurant? Do you feel like you appreciate money in a different way?
Before, money was just, oh, if I work an hour, I get X amount. Now it's like, what can I do to help someone that's going to provide them with a better life, or easier time? The more you can serve someone means the more you can make. If you're actually going to go out and help someone, unless you're a bad businessman, you're going to get some award.
Yeah, too right. I mean, that sounds like a massive like mindset shift, I suppose, from almost like, how can I get the most out of the person I'm working for? It's like borderline exploitation. I'm sure everybody's been there where you're like, I really need the toilet. It's company time. I'm sure everybody's done it. I'm not trying to point at anything, but I definitely agree with you there. It is such a big change. It puts the focus, I think it just broadens your horizons. You're focusing on other people and what impact you can bring to the world and how you can add value, rather than what can I do for myself.
It's infinite, isn't it? What can you do for someone else? That could be anything. Or here's 20 quid for an hour.
Yeah.
Like, they just make so much more possibilities, which is then more encouraging to continue, carry on, going out, push further, work harder. Like, the opportunities are boundless.
Tell me a little bit more about the Joe Wood property team and how, obviously you mentioned it was your dad had sort of the background, I guess, and the expertise, if you don't mind me saying. Tell me about the journey of how sort of the Joe Wood property team came about. What's the story?
Well, absolute learning curve to start off with. As we just said, just thought it was going to jump in. It's all going to be easy. Bear in mind, this is in an industry that I had no experience in, and I was starting a business at the same time. It was a bit of a learning curve to start off with, but the best thing for me was the partnership we have with Keller Williams. The training and support I got throughout those first few months was incredible. Learned as much as I needed to get started in the industry. It's been, as everything should be, it's kind of learning as you go, trying to jump in at the deep end, making sure you can, well, obviously make sure you can do it, but like learn as you go and improve as you go, and that way you can just keep growing. And yeah, so I mean, first 3 months were a lot of learning. Then it was, all right, let's go and get out there. I was knocking on doors, doing anything to try and find some business and get myself in front of many people as possible. But yeah, it took a while to get going. I was a scruffy looking kid trying to sell you a house. That's your biggest investment for most people. No wonder they didn't trust me. But then as soon as someone did, the whole game just changed. It's like, okay, yeah, I can do this. And then one listing led to another listing that led to another listing. It just kept going from there. I mean, we then did go into a bit of a market dip that completely changed the whole scape of estate agency, which meant we lost some deals, which was hard to deal with. Next year, we got better. And then the year after that, where we are now, we're 4 times from where we were last year. So
that's a phenomenal jump.
Yeah.
And I bet when you were in that moment, what was it that really kept you going on that vision and kept you driven to keep going? Because when you're in those lowest of lows, I've been there and felt like giving up before. What was it for you then?
I mean, it goes through your head all the time, doesn't it? I was like, I could just go get a job. And I was like, I could go back to Canada. I've got a visa again. Like, let's just leave it all. But I don't know. It is that feeling of, right, I'm doing this for myself. Like, if I can actually make it, going to be... Actually, do you know what? Forget all that. The one thing that kept me going through it all was a quote. I can't remember who said it, but it says, you only fail if you quit. And
yeah,
every time I got to that low point, that's come back into my head. You only fail if you quit. And I'm not a quitter, so... And I don't like to fail, so why not just keep going?
Good bit of motivation for anybody who's going through one of those hard times right now. I think I probably heard that same quote or a very similar one, and in those times where you're like, I could just give up. It would be so much easier to do this, to do that. But, you know, with this path that we've both chosen of entrepreneurship and being a business owner, we didn't choose it because it was easy. Initially, we both thought, amazing, choose our own hours, set up a website, sit back, wait for the phone to ring. I was very naive like that, you know, when I was 18. I set the business up, did my little Google business listing and was like, come on then, where are all the clients at? And like 3 months in, I was like, I've got no clients and no money. So I can't really have like time off when I want. So that was a very steep learning curve, but definitely, just having that motivation to keep you going. And I think that's something that is really vital in business, is that mindset. In terms of keeping your mind sound and making good decisions, what sort of advice have you got? Any rituals, routines, anything like that you can share?
Yeah, the most powerful one for me is just kind of creating a morning routine that's going to get you motivated, because this whole motivation word is like, I mean, it's a bit of a tricky one. You don't have motivation all the time. Like, no one does. Those big business guys, they don't just have most motivation all the time, but they've got discipline in their routines. You can wake up one day. Some days I just really don't want to get out of bed. For me, it's yoga, meditation, writing a power list, which isn't a to-do list. It's more of a, these things get done today, and then other things also get done. But those really kind of if you can set your day and think of the things that are non-negotiable, then that sets you off in clarity. For me, yoga and meditation is so good. It just gets me back down, if it's before work or after work.
Sure.
I'm more so in the mornings, but I've started to do it in the evenings as well now, just as
nice.
Kind of
wind down from work.
Wind down, which has been really good. But it's staying on top of your own thing, like especially when you're running a business, you've always got something to do. Clients are calling, but you need to make sure the priority is you, because without you, nothing happens. Make sure you're still exercising, make sure you're eating good. I know everyone kind of says it, but like, I mean, just... But it is valuing your time and making sure you get the bits that are going to make you energetic and motivated.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting what you say about like having the morning routine. I think it is something I've very much dipped in and out of it. Mm-hmm. I got given a book when I was, I don't know, I must have been like 19, I think. It was just before lockdown. I got given a book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, which phenomenal read. It was the perfect moment for me to get into that book, because I'd started on the self-development journey. My dad had started giving me self-development books to read, and they'd piqued my interest enough, but they weren't full-on self-development books. Yeah. It was a mix of fiction and non-fiction. So there was like little life wisdoms that are like weaved in and out of the stories, and it just perked my interest enough. So sort of coming across the Miracle Morning, there's sort of like 7 key pillars, which the author actually went and researched. What do all of these really successful people, like you say, that seem to have all of this motivation every day, what is it that they do? So the first one in there is meditation or silence. You have a period of silence when you wake up in the morning. Then you've got your affirmations. So we're saying all of your I ams and, sort of really, really believing it when you say it. Because I think it's very easy as well with affirmations to get caught up in just saying stuff without actually meaning it. The big thing that makes a difference is actually really believing it and feeling it as you say it. Then you've got visualization, which is something a little bit different. And then you've got your exercise. So for you, that's your yoga. I used to, during lockdown mode, I was doing maybe an hour or 2 of yoga a day. I usually do some push-ups as well, like some squats, just body weight stuff. Having that structure really keeps you going, and you know what you're doing first thing when you wake up. And it just takes an hour. But even on days where I didn't have an hour, I could condense it down into 10 minutes.
That you make it work.
Yeah.
It begins to put you on the right track.
Yeah. I kind of fell out of that habit. I did it for like a year and a half, every single day. Then I had one day off, turned into 2, turned into 2 weeks, turned into 2 months, and then
my old friend Mo.
Yeah,
when Mo's low, it doesn't go.
I love that.
By Mo, I mean momentum. Because as soon as momentum stops, it's so difficult to get going again. But if you can keep it rolling, like as of anything, then
it's like just pushing a car, isn't it?
Yeah, it just becomes easy.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know the other thing that's like kept me going is just continuously learning and continuously reading. Like the day you stop learning is the day you stop going forward. You said it before. We went to a conference last week or 2 weeks ago in London, just a business conference with some pretty cool speakers. And you said, I was just lacking motivation and whatnot. And then you come out of the back of that and you're like, oh my God, I can do this, I can do that. When you commit to learning something and getting more ideas and just refreshing that perspective, that's when you're going to keep going.
Yeah, 100%. That really motivated me. I think that's something that I've learned about myself over the last 3-4 years of being a business owner. Sometimes when I do lose that motivation, being around other people that are motivated or like people that are at the top of their game inspires me. And it's like their energy kind of rubs off on me. So actually, I think in that respect, I'm very much by definition an extrovert, because a lot of people think that introverted and extroverted is to do with how outgoing you are as a person and whether you like being the center of attention, but it's actually to do with who you're motivated by. If you're an introvert, you're internally motivated, and if you're an extrovert, you're externally motivated. And I definitely find myself falling more into that extrovert kind of category. So yeah, I'm very grateful that you invited me to the conference. It was phenomenal. Yeah, it was a really, really, really good conference, and the speakers were just so inspiring, and the energy in the room was really, really electric. But yeah, I definitely find that events for me are that big thing that kind of helps to get me going again. It's nice scheduling an event every couple of months or every month, just because I know if my motivation's low, I can get re-inspired and ready to get going. And even if it's not low, I'm even more pumped up to get back into, my God, I've just learned some really cool stuff that I can implement. Yeah, it's good that you touch on that, because I think as a business owner, or once you leave the formal education system, I think for a lot of people, that education just stops.
Yeah.
So whether that be, even if you don't go into running a business, going into entrepreneurship, actually learning self-development or learning a sport or a craft or just a new hobby, it really does help to just keep you going and keep your mind right.
Absolutely. I definitely you got to fill your buckets, and the first bucket to fill is learning. The more you can learn, the better you're going to be. That's one of my things with going the standard way and just getting a job and whatnot, is that a lot of people kind of just look at it as, oh, well, I'm going to do this job and it's going to pay me that. But I think the better way you should look into it, because jobs are stepping stones. You could work a job to get you in a position to start your own business. If you're thinking like that and you know you want to do something like that in the future, but it's not feasible now, get a job that's going to teach you something that is going to benefit you in the future. Look at it from the aspect of, what can I learn from this job whilst it's paying me, and 100%. That you can then implement in the future. That's how I think you should look at it.
That's definitely something I wish I did when I was in my world of employment. I guess I always have learned something, but I didn't realize until I set up my business what it was that I'd learned. I started work at 14. I started working in a bakery. So I wasn't really learning anything there necessarily to do with business. But I think when I was that young, I didn't even have business on my mind, and it wasn't something I'd considered. But then as my passion for filming and photography grew, by the time I was 16, I realized actually that is kind of the direction that I wanted to take my life. And I was working in like hospitality, I was working in a lot of like customer service based jobs. And I think that is my biggest sort of thing that I've brought to business. I've definitely realized that over all of those years, like my big learning and my big takeaway from that was actually that customer service is so important when it comes to business. And that's something that I've noticed from you and like the way that you work and the way that you work with your clients. And it's the big thing that everybody seems to mention in their testimonials about you and your work is actually that you go above and beyond and make things work, and you're not the traditional estate agent as such. And I think that, you know, that's just goes to show that you really care about what you do and you're not just in it for the money, which is vital.
Appreciate it.
Sorry, brother. It's all love. It's all love, bro.
Someone's got you to do a job, like, why not beat their expectations?
Yeah, 100%.
And I mean, I've chosen an industry that has quite low expectations. So if I'm not overperforming, then I'm not doing a good enough job.
You're doing something wrong. Yeah, for sure. For the Joe Wood property team, what does the future hold? What does that look like for you? Have you got any new developments going on? What's the vision for the next year or so?
It's just get better every day. If you can get 1% better every day, then the results are exponential. It's just getting improvement. A lot of that's on the back end of just automating systems and getting everything running up in there, making sure we're doing everything the best we can. Obviously continue to learn and look at new ways we can do things, whether that's the offers we put out to clients or the service that we actually do. And I mean, really, it's just I've just a focus on Debenham, my local village, at the school where I went. I'm a governor at the school now, which is quite fun. Getting more involved in the community. Our little pumpkin carving competition that we're doing.
Keep an eye out for that one.
But it's really just focusing locally, making sure we're getting out there in front of as many people as possible and showing that we are here and that we work differently. It's just showing that we work differently and then just growing the team. I want to start getting to the point once my systems are automated and I know I've got everything there that's dialed, that's then like, okay, bring some admin in, get some help with all the stuff that is important for me to do, but not necessarily the thing that's going to earn me more money, more clients, more everything like that. Sure. So it's just building that team up. Hopefully we'll have a couple people in the next year or so.
Fantastic.
Once that team's built, we can then look at bringing in more agents in the area, growing the team that way. We'll have a support team that's there ready, and then I can bring in, and hopefully as well we'll be in a position where we're able to give our new agents some business.
Fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the growth.
Big plans.
Love it. Yeah, think big, always. Yeah.
We've taken over.
Yeah, that's it. Wicked. Probably ask you to do a little. Yeah, no, you're fine, mate. Go fast. You're all good. So, a message you want to put out to people if you live in Debenham or surrounding villages? It's your opportunity to do a little call to action.
If you have any questions on property, just want some advice, put some plans in place, whether that's selling, buying, renting, letting, looking at investments, anything like that, we're here to advise and point people in the right direction and make sure that they know as much as they can about what they're getting into. If that means working with us and us helping you on your property journey, then by all means, I am keen. So give me a call and
drop the number, email.
Your house is your biggest investment for a lot of people. Make sure you're using an agent that's going to actually support you and be on your side, not just wanting to get money off a house sale. It's not a transaction, it's a relationship.
Absolutely.
Make sure your agents check their data, because overvaluing ain't what you want to do.
Real. Awesome. And in terms of guests and who else you'd like to know about, or if you've got any friends that are also in business that you want to shout out about their business and give them a platform, who else would you like to see on this podcast?
Ooh, who else would I like to see? I don't know. Well, I mean, we've got a whole network of very fun and interesting people. I want to see...
Who do you want to know more about, I guess, in the local business world?
I just think it'd be good to know more young entrepreneurs, like people that are getting out there in their 20s, early 30s, that are going out trying to make something for their own. I think if we can support each other, then, I mean, the world's our oyster.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Well, brother, I appreciate you for coming on.
Appreciate you, bro.
Look after yourself. Really? Hey, what's that all about? There we go. That's the outro sorted. Bless.